So I want to thank Marc Miller of Career Pivot for being here with me today. Great seeing you, Marc. Hey. Yeah. So what I want to just make sure we do a little housekeeping. If you are watching this and you're on Twitter, go ahead and share this by tell a little bird, and that will tell people that we're live and we're going to be talking about Boomer Job Search. Marc's taking his power drink there. He's all good. Okay, and thanks for being here, Pamela. We're gonna get started with some questions. So let's get going with this, Marc. We are here talking about why baby boomers are having a little bit of difficulty with job search today. And you've got some great theories on what some of the top issues are of why this is.
Yeah, one of the key things that you have to remember is, number one, age discrimination is alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I still run into too many clients who keep on trying to just simply wait for jobs to appear on job boards and then apply. I have a client up in the Northeast right now who there was a job popped up for a position that she was a good fit for. I told her, go get a referral first. From the time it was posted to the time it was filled was 3 weeks. She said, I should have applied. I said, no, it was probably an internal candidate. There's no way they can fill that position that fast.
Right.
And so it's getting around to understanding that it's your network. I've been working very effectively with several clients on what I refer to as weak ties, using people that they haven't talked to in 15, 20 years. But they're not comfortable doing that.
So how can they get, what do you do to break through that?
Well, I had one client who was very, very introverted, sales guy, no less. Introverted sales guy. And what I found was once he reached out and asked the first time and got a positive response, as he did it again and again, it got easier and easier and easier. And he had to see that, geez, this works. It's a real challenge because this is, particularly I'm a guy. I don't like asking for help. I don't like asking for directions, much less saying, geez, I need a job. One of the other things, we grew up in a generation where if you didn't have a job, if you go back to 1970s and someone said, well, you don't have a job, what's wrong with you? And one of the things that has really changed in the last 15 years, the number of folks who've been touched by unemployment in these last two recessions is enormous. It's probably 60, 70, 80% of the population where either they've been touched, a spouse, or some close family member.
Mm-hmm.
And so the stigma of being unemployed is not what it used to be. But unfortunately, a lot of folks in my generation, and I turn 60 next year, you still feel there's something wrong with me. I'm unemployed, particularly if this is the first time you've been unemployed. And this is where I've seen with a lot of particularly folks in their late 50s and 60s, where this is probably the first time they've been unemployed in 20 years or 30 years or maybe ever. And it's a tough switch.
Right. And I always say that job search is so much more about mental capacity, your mental fortitude, than it is actually doing the job search itself, the technicalities of applying for a job. And so, yeah, I think it's really hard for people mentally to overcome the obstacles and the stigma that they think is there, and all of those other mental issues. They've lost their self-esteem, their sense of worth, their routine, all of that stuff. And I love that Tom is doing too. Tom Markham, he's working sort of as an entrepreneur during his gaps, which really makes him feel like he's got some value and keeps his skills fresh. Great thing.
Yeah, I'm working with currently a CEO that was spit out, and she's in her 50s, and she says, well, I don't want to be a consultant. I said, you're going to go be a consultant. You're going to set up a consulting business, and at her level, and this happens with a lot of senior level people, C-level people, they need to go date to get a job. In other words, they're going to have to go in, do work for people, and I've been successful doing this with several folks in their 60s, where I had one guy who went in. They said, it was a channel marketing position, and I said they weren't quite ready to pull the trigger. So I said, go back in and say, I'll work 20 hours a week, and we're only going to do this for 3 months. And he ended up working 2 different contract positions. When it was done, and it was a 4-step program. He says, let me come in for 3 months at a fixed rate, so they could put a dollar, they could put a dollar figure around it. Say, yes, we're willing to risk, $20,000. And he came in for 3 months, and then after 3 months, they bumped him up to 40 hours, and after a year, they hired him.
It's a great try before you buy.
Get a job.
It's a great try before you buy. It's a win-win for both the people and the company. And so I'm looking at Mari Quite, Contrary, I think that's what it is. But she was saying that she's losing out to jobs to 30-year-olds. She's working as a consultant, but she really wants to be an employee. And that's tough.
Yeah. Well, we are rapidly moving to a contract-based employment model.
Yes.
And I hate to tell you this, but I've had this discussion with any number of people. Whether you're employed or you're working as a contractor consultant, you are working for yourself now. And it is a big mental shift. And yeah, you may not ever be fully employed, be an employee again. Personally, I don't ever want to be an employee again. I am done with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to work.
Tell me why you don't want to be an employee, so other people can try and shift their mindset, Marc.
Well, for years, I've worked for the big man for many years. I worked for IBM for 22 years, and when I left, and after they screwed me on my pension back in '99 and 2000, I left to go work for a successful startup, and I found everything was so much easier. I mean, I got things done. Then I did a second startup, and I worked for an unethical 35-year-old boss who told me to go hire the CEO's brother, and I refused. And I'm seeing I don't want to be put in that position ever again. Similarly, at my first startup, we were bought out by Lucent, and I ended up on the team that was ranking people to see who was going to get laid off next. Yeah. I don't ever want to do that again.
Right.
So, if my choice, I don't want to work for anybody anymore.
Let's talk about benefits, because everybody's talking about the lack of benefits, and that's what they miss with a paid job.
Well,
I think that
what most people think about is medical insurance.
Right.
Well, that's a fallacy. You're paying for it. It's just simply the company. And now if you look at your W-2 and you're an employee, you're going to see how much money they're spending, and it's enormous. And the most expensive health insurance you can buy is corporate group health by far. My wife and I now are on a high deductible plan. I'm sorry, we manage it. I pay $822 a month for a $13,000 deductible plan. If I compare it to what I was paying on Cobra, it's a third, 2/3, or half of what Cobra was. Mm-hmm. And then you start saying, okay, but what about 401k and everything else? My comment to that is make it work. I for years, my wife has been self-employed for years. We have a simple IRA for her. The concept of benefits, well, the company's paying for it. No, you're paying for it. You just don't see it.
And here's the other thing: benefits today with companies aren't what they used to be.
No.
Not every company is offering any kind of 401k matching. It's to some people who haven't had to do it before, it can be really sort of a learning curve. But I think that once people start embracing the owning of the insurance and the other benefits, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, one of the hardest things for me to do when I left and went off to be a solo entrepreneur was my mental mindset. And this was really hard because I was, one of my mantras was I was raised to be an employee, to go work for a father-like company that would take care of me. And after 30 years, I would ride off into the sunset and retire. Well, then they moved my cheese. And my biggest challenge was I'd wake up at 4 a.m. going, I don't have a paycheck. And even though I'm a recovering engineer, I had it all figured out. I knew my cash flow. I knew how much money. That still didn't, the emotional effects, I downplayed. And so I've got a number of clients working right now. I've got several clients who are on 18-month plans. I have them going to small business development centers, planning to leave in 18 to 24 months, mostly after they reach a certain age, and be willing to set up their own business. As I've told them, would they be willing to take 75 to 80% of what they make now, be able to only work 10 months of the year, and oh, by the way, fire clients that you don't want to work with.
Right.
That's one of the biggest.
The ones that don't want to pay you what you're really worth.
Yeah. Well, it's what creates problems for most of us is working with people that we don't want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
It's people. I have any number of clients where it is far more important who they work with than what they do. If you are in an environment that's fit for you, wow, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. So, embracing this entrepreneurship mindset, in other words, we're all our own employee. We are responsible for all of the ups and downs that come with that. We're all looking for our next job at all the times, the next gig, whatever that looks like. Oh, by the way, I'm going to give a plug for having multiple income streams at the same time, so that you don't have to come and start a consulting business from a dead stop, that you've always got something in the pipeline. Those are proactive things that people should always be doing.
Yeah, I want to make a comment. One of the things that I think Mary Quite was saying, well, raising your price is hard. I belong to a meetup group where we have one guy, Ruben Schwartz, comes in, and he's a pricing guy. And first time he came in, he basically said, he looked at all these small business owners, says, you're all too cheap. Raise your prices. And and it's the same. I have found that I keep on raising my prices, and as I keep on raising, I said, God, no one's going to come to me. And he also taught things like, oh, by the way, someone says, oh, you're too expensive. Well, tell me about what does that mean? And what it usually means is you're giving me too much. You're giving me stuff I don't need. So can I eliminate something from my service offering that will reduce my cost, that allows me to go to the price? But the first thing what happens is, oh, you're too expensive, let me lower my price. No. And there is a whole art behind pricing that we all have to, when we go off working for ourselves, we have to go learn. And it's an art to it. There's an art and a science.
Yeah. So yeah, Mary Quite wants to start a blab on pricing and pricing services for consultants. I think that's a great idea. And I bet you there's already either a chat going on out there on Twitter, or also a blab that somebody's talking about that. It's great.
Yeah, it's a real challenging, because a lot of us want to price our stuff based on our costs. And your pricing is really based on what people are willing to pay and the value. And it's hard to figure that out, other than my wife's been a massage therapist for years. And, when she would raise her price, she'd get better clients. Because as she raised her price, she was perceived as being higher quality. Now, by the way, she's really good, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. So, okay, besides the baby boomers coming up to speed with the whole idea of being an entrepreneur, how many times are they going to change jobs over their career, and why is that different now?
Well, it's rather interesting. I've gotten written up in a variety of places, but a quote I now preach that once you take a new job, after 18 months, you need to start looking for your next job. And figuring it's going to take you 18 months to find that next job that says you're prepared to leave every 3 years. Now, notice I said you're prepared to leave every 3 years. Doesn't mean you will. But the employment pact that I hired when I joined IBM in 1978 doesn't exist anymore. So there's no loyalty to the company. They're not going to be loyal to you, and you have to be prepared not to be loyal to them. We see way too much disruption in the industry, in all industries. I'll use the example, I regularly, every year, get briefed by the Texas Workforce Solutions, the state agencies that manage, and they'll list the 10 hottest jobs. And by the way, 7 of them didn't exist 5 years ago.
Right.
So you have to be prepared always to be on the move. Always.
So why aren't boomers? Why aren't candidates? Why aren't they not ready?
Because we go back into the jobs and we just simply say, oh, well, we're comfortable. We're going to be here for another 10 years. I don't need to be prepared. And so I keep on saying, you need to you got to figure out who you want to go work for next, or more importantly, who has problems that you solve. Okay? And so put the consulted mindset on and start looking for those companies, because then you can start saying, okay, who do I know at those companies, or who do I need to know at those companies? It's interesting. I'm on the board of a local networking group, a business networking group, and we're Metropolitan Breakfast Club, and we're considered the premier speakers club. And one of the questions I have posed here recently, are we a speakers club or are we a business networking group? Because business networking has really changed in the last 15 years. 80% of my clients are not in Texas. So going to a networking meeting doesn't do me any good. Well, it does me minimal good. And even when you as an employee, you don't need to live where the company has headquarters.
Right, telework.
In fact, I just did a blog post, how to use LinkedIn in advanced search to find companies that employ people in your area. And what I showed is that I used the example, I searched on product manager, and I just looked for people who were product managers in Austin, where I live. And I found a company that, geez, they had one product manager here. They don't have they do have a sales office here, but they don't have a development office. Oh, they just let them live here. So you don't have to, you have to figure out who can hire you next. And a lot of times it would be surprised who they are.
Yeah. So they've got to be ready to change jobs, just changing, again, the mindset around that. Why do you think job seekers over 50 need to be on Twitter?
I just talked.
I love Twitter. Marc, that's how you and I met, yeah. and that's how we've been engaging for the past 5+ years. So I'm a huge fan. Tell them why they need to be a fan.
It's interesting. I just had this discussion because I talked to an older group yesterday. And I said, number one, you don't need to tweet, but you got to be on Twitter. Number one, you got to be able to search Twitter, which you don't even need a Twitter ID. Just go to search.twitter.com. And you can search it. 2, I teach everyone to use Twitter lists. In other words, it's a great way to monitor what's going on in the company. So I have my clients set up a Twitter list per company that they're targeting. And 3, if I want to get someone to pay attention to me and talk to me, I tweet them. So, for example, I've got a client who is, after many years, is breaking back into the media business. He's been out. So he went off with his father to create a hedge fund, and that finally blew up. And after 5 or 6 years, he wants to get back in. So what he's doing is he's writing LinkedIn publisher posts, and then he's tweeting with the user handle of people he wants to see this. So executives at HBO or executives at CBS or ABC, and you can do this very strategically, and to get noticed. And then the next step is, just like you and I have done, is we start dialoguing.
Right.
So a lot of times I think of Twitter from my generation's perspective, almost think it like texting. It's a way in which we can dialogue back and forth on an open airway. So, for example, as we're big time bloggers. I've been on Blog Chat, which is a weekly tweet chat, every Sunday night for the last 3 years. And
I see you there.
Matt Collier, who runs it, that's where I've learned almost 95% of what I've learned about blogging. And I now know people that I can go to and ask questions. And I've never met these people in person, and never will, very likely. I have people in Hawaii, and in fact, we were looking at going. We canceled a vacation going to Utah this summer, and I had several people from Blog Chat saying, "Yeah, when you get up here to Park City, come up and visit us. It's nice to finally see people." Last year at South by Southwest, I end up speaking, and I end up meeting several of my Blog Chat buddies in quote IRL, in real life. But these are people I've actually gotten to know. I know, and I actually care about.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Pamela, do you want to come in? I'm going to open up the seat if you really want to come in and say a couple of things about what you're seeing out there when you're helping job seekers. So I'm going to open it up if you want to try and come in.
She's coming in.
She's trying, maybe. Recommendations for consultant tweet chats? Ooh, good question. Okay, so no mic, no camera. That won't work. Okay. Next time, okay? For sure. Okay.
Oh, she didn't come. Okay.
All right. So are there tweet chats, Twitter chats that you know of, Marc, for consultants?
I don't know, but I've got to believe there is.
I know. I think if you just
Twitter chats for just about everything.
If you do a Google search for #consultant, I'm sure you'll find them. Yeah,
I'm on. I don't make it very often, but Tuesday evenings there's LinkedIn chat that Vivian von Rosen runs, or Viveka von Rosen. Got to get her name right, or the LinkedIn expert. And there are those are the two that I tend to attend. The one I almost never miss is Blog Chat, which is 8 p.m. Central Time.
So there used to be a really good document out there. It was a Google Doc with Twitter chats. Now there's Twubs. So I'm going to share that link with you. What's Prof Chat? Is that for professionals, Skip? I've not heard of Prof Chat, or maybe it's for professors. There are a lot of them out there.
Yes.
What I think too, even what we're doing right now, Marc, which is based off of Twitter, having these conversations, it's a great opportunity for boomers to get used to new technology, to try new things, to meet new people. It's where we're going. The phone, email, everything's changing. So I think it's really important that baby boomers do whatever they can do to dismiss the myth that they are not tech savvy. And if they're not tech savvy, they need to sort of think about if that's going to be an obstacle for them moving forward.
Well, I want to dispel some. My generation is tech savvy. Now, we may not be all that up to date. I commonly joke, I do a multi-generational workshop, and I'll talk about, I don't have my phone here, but I'll hold up my iPhone. The kids today did not create this. It was my generation that created it. You want to talk about the surface mount technology inside, the chipsets, the ARM chips, the protocols that are being used in it. Sorry, my generation created that. The difference is the kids today are technological consumers. And what we have to learn is, number one, we need to adapt to the younger audience from a communication style, but also we need to teach them how to communicate with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I very often I do a multi-generational workshop, and I'll say, the kids today, they is the way they is because we made them that way. And
yes, you guys did. You're the ones who did it.
Yep.
Well, the boomers made them that way.
If you ever look at any generation, when a generation leaves home, you do one of two things. You either do exactly what your parents told you to do, or you do the exact opposite. And when you talk to anybody who has kids and ask them, are you raising your children the way you were raised? And the answer isn't just no. It's usually hell no. So why do you expect them to be like you? And so each generation has a natural communication style. The kids today is texting. So text them. Oh, by the way, my generation, talk to us. You got a boomer boss, you got a Gen X boss, talk to them. And so you need, I can't tell you the number of times I just did a workshop for a Texas Society of Association Executives last week. And I had a kid come up afterwards going, yeah, I'm going to call my mom and dad from now on. Yes, I said, your mom's going to be very, very appreciative.
Yeah. So, Marc, we've got just about 4 minutes, and I want to make sure that I tell everybody about something that you have been working on for a while and is out on Amazon. Want to give a plug for your book?
Sure. It's personal branding for baby boomers. What it is.
There's the link. Just shared it, everybody.
How to manage it and why you can't ignore it. It came out on as you put in the out in the tweet chat there. Yeah, it's very, very. I'm a recovering engineer. It's very practical. It tells you exactly how to do this. One of the key things that you need to do is define what your brand is first. I talk about pick your LinkedIn picture. What does that say about your brand? And by the way, the most important thing about your LinkedIn picture is your background.
How many people don't even consider that? Yes.
There was a great post done on the talent blog, a guy who tested 6 different pictures. And the one that got him the most business was the one where you knew he was a keynote speaker, and you could see that, and you only knew that from the background. And so, yes, very, very strategically picking your backgrounds. Mine was done on a green screen, so I've got 3 or 4 different backgrounds, which, by the way, means if you're a guy, you actually need to worry about, does your clothes go with the background? I have no taste. I have an image consultant. I have 0 taste, none. I know that. And so, the whole idea is the book is, it's an ebook only, 55 pages, but it's got links back to my website for images. So I've got a chapter in there on LinkedIn Publisher. By the way, I explain why 4 of my posts went viral. I can completely explain it. I can't reproduce it, but I can explain why those resonated and how to do that. So again, personal branding for baby boomers, what it is, how to manage it, and why you can't ignore it. Available on Amazon today.
Right. And so Mary says your price is too low, tongue in cheek. I want to thank you, Marc, for having a fun conversation with me. We're going to keep chipping away at these issues that baby boomers need to understand so that they can be competitive and work, because they are not going to be retiring at age 65 and a half or whatever that is. They're going to be working way longer than they expect. Financially, they need to, and they're just not ready to give up the seats. So.
Well, the key piece is I claim I don't ever plan to retire. I plan on working less at something I enjoy. And that's my goal. And that's why I started this business a few years ago, because I can do this into my 70s. And I can then decide how much I want to work. If we look at our parents' generation and them retiring, if we do what they do, it will kill us. We will die. We need a purpose.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
boomers need a poop. Boomers need a purpose.
yes.
No, go for it. Thank you so much, Marc, for being here with me today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share this on my website in a blog post, just sort of encapsulating what we've said, and I'll share you the video with you too.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, Barb and Mari, and all of you. It's been great for your participation. Really, thanks so much. And I'm working on some more guests here for the future, so I hope that you will continue to follow me on Blab. And Marc's on Blab too now, so follow him. All right. Have a great day, everyone.